Welcome, welcome. I'm going to go ahead and get started because we have a fair amount of material to cover in about 55 minutes. Welcome to another Lunch and Learn session. My name is Monica Smith and I'm your Extension Educator here in Kent, Allegan, and Ottawa counties. I'm a registered dietitian and I love all things food, and I found this new plate gizmo pretty fascinating and somewhat confusing for those perhaps who had not already gone there. But before we get started, I just want to remind you that Michigan State University Extension is an equal opportunity employer. We do not discriminate against anyone for any reason, nor do we keep company with those who do. So you are always welcome to anything MSU Extension does. Bring your friends, family, co-workers, grandparents, whomever. We love to have you all. Now, did anybody have any sort of sense of panic on the day they released the MyPlate icon? Did you just see, I'll have at least one nod in the back. Did you just see file cabinets full of My Pyramid stuff? Have you got the pyramid glued on everything? Have you become one with the pyramid and thought, oh no? Because we've had pyramids now for about 15 years, right? We've had 3 versions of pyramids that come out about every 5 years. And now they go and they do this thing. Does this thing look like that thing? No, it doesn't. So we're in this whole relearning tool. And what I realized some time ago, I don't know if anybody's familiar with the Idaho plate method. It was designed for helping people with diabetes learn how to better manage carbohydrate count without counting carbs. It used something that looks a whole lot like this. So as a dietitian, I was pretty familiar with this concept, but when I saw this go to this, I knew there would be fear in the hearts of many. But let's think about this. This guy says, but I'm just my pyramid on the plate. And my pyramid says, I'm still really useful. You still really need me. Now, what is this? This thing is an icon, right? All it is. It's a picture representation of bigger, broader concepts, right? Who in here is a visual learner? A lot of us. How many of us are kinesthetic learners? A few kinesthetic learners. Who are oral learners? A few oral learners. By far, visual and kinesthetic learners outweigh those who learn orally. So most of us need a visual. This is just a visual of what we need to do to be healthier with our diet. But let's just look at this as it stands. Just this right here. What messages does that stand for? Well, it says my pyramid belongs on your plate, right? You see the colors all still match. How many of you have been known to eat without a plate? Yes, confess. Many of us do not eat on a plate. Many of us eat in a car. It's like green eggs and ham on the skate, on a plate. Maybe we do, maybe we don't. So it's telling us eating on a plate is a really good idea. Does anybody in here particularly like to count ounces or cups or calories? I really do not. And what this is saying is you don't need to know all that hullabaloo. If you put me on the plate, I'll sort of take care of that on my own. This also says dairy needs to be part of every meal. You see how this little cup is actually touching the plate? I think they're trying to tell us calcium isn't optional. And this says a good meal can be really, really flexible. If you remember me, you've got half the battle won. Right now, visualize what you have at home in your refrigerator, on your counter, or in your cabinet. Can everybody visualize a fruit of some sort? Grasp it in your mind. Can everybody visualize a grain of some sort? Grasp it. A vegetable. Canned, frozen, fresh. Okay, you've got it. A protein of some sort. And a dairy. Uh-oh. Now you've just meal planned. You have a whole meal and you can't go out to eat tonight. I'm sorry. You've just confessed I could actually create a whole healthy meal without going anywhere, without spending any more money, and it's all right there. Now you might say, ooh, that doesn't go together. I really don't like that protein with that fruit. Now, we didn't talk about culinary delicacy. We were simply talking about, can I put together a healthy whole meal using this icon? I just did it. Not too hard. But let's assume that we're not going to abandon our friend, Mr. Pyramid. What pyramid messages do we have here? Activity is always important. Every day, important every day. Do we get that anywhere on the MyPlate icon? Doesn't go there. Variety is important. This is a really good representation of variety, isn't it? Did you get that off of the plate? You didn't get that off the plate. Probably, as you can see by my bolding, the thing the most important that the pyramid tells us about is that not all foods are created equal. A grain is not a grain. Is a donut for my body the same as a bowl of oatmeal? Donuts up here, right? Oatmeal's down here, right? But does donut fit on here? Did I tell you to never have another donut? No, it's just up here, right? The other one doesn't tell me about where donuts go, does it? Thus, the quandary. If all foods on my plate are not equal, could we have a problem, Houston? Don't you love this little guy from my pyramid? I love his pokey eyes out. Okay, because if we just go by the plate, am I cool over here? Have I got grain? Have I got protein? Have I got a vegetable? Have I got fruit? Have I got dairy? I'm a genius. And not only have I got all that, I could probably get most of that at the convenience store at the gas station, couldn't I? I could get most of that at the gas station. This plate and this plate are not equal plates, are they? That's why you still need me. Because to teach MyPlate without teaching the concept of whole food versus semi-processed food versus treat food misses the boat, doesn't it? Now, have I still gone a long way here toward portion control if I've put it on my plate? Do I have 6 hot dogs here? This has still done a lot for me, even with the quality of this food, by just keeping it on the plate, right? But there's more to good health than calorie control. Much more to good health. Now, our friend Mr. Pyramid. About how personalized could that pyramid get? It could get really personalized, couldn't it? I mean, if you had a little assistance and you knew about how many calories a day you were going to take in order to maintain your weight or to lose weight or to gain weight, whatever you needed to do with your body shape. Wow, this told you pretty much what to do, didn't it? How much to eat of everything. Am I counting calories at this point? I can release it once I know this number, right? Because 1,800 calories simply converts into 1.5 cups of fruit, 2.5 cups of veggies, etc. Wow, that's pretty personalized. Not to mention the fact it gives me some information here about oils. Oils are a part of a healthy diet. They're pretty necessary. So if you don't have any information about oils and or trading that saturated fat for something that's less saturated or not saturated like an oil, you're kind of lost if you don't know what you have to work with, aren't you? You could lose that concept on the plate. Does it say anything about oil on the plate? There's no little yellow ring around the veggies, is there, for those of us that want to throw a little butter on there? No. And it also told me discretionary calories down here on my pyramid. My pyramid told me how many calories a day I can blow just because it tastes good. Just because that's what I want and because I feel like a cookie. If I eat all this other stuff right here for 1,800 calories a day, I've got almost 200 calories I can eat any way I like. And I'll maintain my weight and I'll still be healthy. I will have had enough of everything else. That's pretty handy, isn't it? It's sort of like knowing how much buffer you've got in your checkbook. I mean, come on, we all know I'm going to have 50 cents left this month, or I'm going to have 50, or I'm going to have 500. We all can figure that out. We know what we got to play with. This sort of tells me what I got to play with. Now, how personalized does this get? If you don't combine it with the pyramid. The very first time I used this, these questions came up. These are not my questions. These are actual questions from real participants. The names have been eliminated to protect the innocent. But they actually did say to me, somebody said, well, where does butter fit? Where does oil? Uh-oh. Somebody says, well, what if I want a piece of pie? There's not a pie plate. Uh-oh. This was my favorite one. Are you saying I can't drink anything besides milk? Well, of course you can. Here's another one. I'm 5 feet tall and I'm 50 years old. My daughter's 5'8" and she's 22. We get the same plate? Uh-oh. You see how you could miss the boat a little bit if you didn't understand the concepts in my pyramid and the pyramid tracking? Yeah. These questions can remain unanswered if you don't know enough about my pyramid to teach MyPlate. And as in all good relationships, we are better together than we are alone. Our pyramid says, you know, before you, a lot of people just didn't get me. Because we could talk this blue in the face. And it's very hard for individuals to understand how that translates to that, doesn't it? Have you ever gone home with a kitchen full of food and simply could not think of what to eat? And then you got in the car and did what? Drove through. Because it was just too overwhelming. Whereas if you can break this down to this and you can visualize this, a good meal is never far away. But you really need to understand these two concepts together. If you've been on the website, www.choosemyplate.gov, you're noticing a lot of these things are still there. Have you noticed that? Have you been on the website? These have not vanished. And I think this is why. And so, here we have this great icon, and we have this great pyramid that we have to weave together and somehow relate back to the dietary guidelines for Americans that just came out. You're not going to find these concepts on that plate. Empty calories. That means calories from solid fat and added sugar. And this could be all of a food or part of a food. The example here, is there anything in soda that your body needs for survival? Nothing. Well, water. If you were in a desert and all that showed up, floated to shore, was a 12-pack of soda, you'd be awfully glad to see it, wouldn't you? And it would hydrate you. It would. but not as good for you as if a 12-pack of aseptically packed milk showed up. You'd live longer off that. So does all empty calories. But sugar-sweetened cereal has some empty calories, right? You can have a whole grain cereal that's loaded in sugar, right? Some good, some not so good. So, empty calories. This concept was more brought out in the pyramid when it said discretionary, right? Nutrient-dense food. These are big concepts, food that provide a lot of bang for your dollar. How many people, somebody has said to you in the last 7 days, it cost too much to eat well? Oh, come on. It's like every day, right? Has anybody ever come up to you and said, it cost too much to eat treat food? I just can't get over the fact that every time I go into the gas station, it costs me $3 for a bag of chips and a soda. Does anybody said that to you lately? No, they have not, have they? Yet for that same $3, you could buy enough chicken to feed a family of 4 to 6, depending on what kind of chicken you bought, right? Or you could have probably potatoes, a fruit, and milk for 4 people, most of a meal for that same $3, right? But nobody ever says, oh, it just costs so much to eat treat food. But it does cost more to eat treat food because what's in it? Is it a good value? What did I get for that? Well, I got pleasure, and we all want pleasure, and that's okay. But pleasure can turn into pounds, and it can turn into disease, and it can turn into depression if it gets ahead of us, right? Nutrient-dense foods don't generally do that. I mean, you'd have to eat a whole lot of vegetables to equal the calorie output in one soda. Along the lines of about, 3 cups. That's a lot of vegetables. That sounds like a stomach ache if you ate it all at once. So, 8 ounces of fat-free milk, calcium A, D, 90 calories. Excellent. Now, does anybody ever, another one of mine is that milk. Milk is so expensive, isn't it? Well, is it? A soda, 12-ounce soda costs $1. 12 ounces of milk costs 31 cents. If the gallon of milk costs about $3.29. Isn't that kind of interesting? Does anybody ever hear anybody say, milk is such a good value for my food dollar? But where else are you going to get A, D, protein, and calcium for 31 cents? And that's a serving and a half. Pretty cool, huh? Nutrient-dense food. You don't see that too much on the plate icon. You're going to see this on the pyramid icon at the bottom. Everything at the bottom of the pyramid is nutrient-dense. Now, population specific. Most, the pyramid, and the plate are designed for general population. But there are now recommendations for pregnant, breastfeeding, preschoolers, kids, and for weight loss. They make all those recommendations if you go to choosemyplate.gov. But there's not a separate plate for each one. So it's not like you say, oh, I have the pregnant mom plate and I have there is a little preschooler plate, but there is no breastfeeding plate. So here in Kent County, we've sort of done it for us because we've seen this thing happen over and over again. The adult plate should be about 9 inches. What do you think the average size of your dinnerware is at home? 10, 12, 13 or more, depending on what kind of dinnerware you have. So right now, the adult plate, if you're eating on the plate from your dinnerware setting, you're probably already overdoing it. You have to go to the salad plate. But the child plate should only be about 6 inches. The child plate looks just like the mommy plate, looks just like the daddy plate, looks just like the big brother plate. But if you give the child this plate, the same size, you're setting that child up for disaster. First of all, it's overwhelming to small children to see that volume of food at one time. So if you ever want to shut a kid down that already doesn't like to eat, already has issues with food, already has better things to do because, hey, I can walk, talk, I can run, I'm mobile, I have other things to do than eat, just plop this big plate down in front of them. And you can give them a MyPlate placemat here and say, oh, but it's perfect. If it's the big one, you're going to freak the child out. That's how it is. Go to a smaller plate, looks just the same, and a smaller cup. And maybe what's even more important is the snack plate. And this doesn't just apply to children, it applies to adults. Snacks are snacks. Snacks are not treats. A treat is a cookie. A snack is a piece of fruit. A treat is a piece of pie, or a treat might be some chips. A snack is part of a healthy whole diet. Let's think about this. If I eat this for lunch and I eat it for dinner, okay, I'm going to get 2 fruits, 2 vegetables, 2 grains, 2 ounces of protein. Am I short anywhere for the day? Yeah. You're probably going to be short vegetables, right? Because for breakfast, do most people eat vegetables? No. Do most people even eat protein for breakfast now? I mean, it's like a treat to go out and get an egg or to have some type of protein for breakfast at this point. Most people will pick up a couple of grains at breakfast. They might pick up a fruit. They might pick up a dairy, maybe. These they could be a little shy in. So what this snack plate needs to be is whatever you're not getting the rest of the day. For most of us, part of this 6-inch snack plate needs to be fruits and vegetables. What goes on the other side is what you've missed the rest of the day. For example, this morning I had a smoothie for breakfast. No grain. I had pasta salad and asparagus for lunch. No fruit, no milk. So I'm already behind if I don't make up this evening. I'm probably going to need to have a fruit, and I'm probably going to need to have a milk here. But this plate is what rounds this out. Only you'll notice it's smaller than this one. Now with ChooseMyPlate.gov, there are so many concepts online. It's a really nice website, very easy to access. But if you were to turn a client loose on this website, or if you were somebody that didn't have a whole lot of nutrition knowledge or savvy, you might get a little bit lost in it. The concepts from the 2010 dietary guidelines that are online is make your calories count. Again, really important. Good value for your dollar, good value for your body is, am I eating something that does something for me physically? So sizing up your servings and calories, seeing what's right for you, judging what is right for you. And it's an interactive weight management tool at this link. And if you go to the website after this is downloaded for you, you'll be able to click on this from the website. Really nice interactive tool for those who are motivated to use it and who like to do that. there's a very good label reading tool, a very, very good label reading interactive tool. But it takes a little bit of time. So, are you an individual who's willing to put 30 to 45 minutes into an online learning tutorial? If you are, you're going to love this. But you're going to have to read English and read English pretty well. So if you were a new immigrant to our community, this would not fly very well. But the graphics are cute, but you'd have a hard time following the concepts. This can be done in sections, though, which is really nice. So if you're going to see somebody 2 or 3 or 4 times, you could come back and do part of it each time, as the person could sit and do 10 or 15 minutes at each time, which I really like. It's not all or nothing. And there's still a food tracker for adults and preschoolers to keep up with what you're eating on a daily basis and know how close you're coming. Now, in my mind, I went, does that sort of defeat the purpose of the plate? You just told me that if I ate it on the plate, I didn't have to worry about it, right? This is for the person that likes a little bit more. You don't need to do this. The plate works without this. But it's still there, and if you'll notice, it's from mypyramidtracker.gov. It's not a plate tracker, it's a pyramid tracker. It still goes back to tie that to the concepts that were in my pyramid. So you've got these concepts from the dietary guidelines, and then you've got MyPlate, which by itself is a lovely tool, but it's still a little shy on some of the concepts, making it go forward, right? So someone came up with these tips that support MyPlate. All of these are tip sheets right here. There's like 14 or 15 of them at this point. More are coming. And with every one of these tip sheets, like Choose MyPlate, there's 10 tips for what you can do to support these different things that support the concepts for 2010 guidelines and for MyPlate. And these are really, really good. They're not too much to deal with. Any one of these on their own would be a great place to start for a goal setting. So if you really wanted to start working this plate, you said, I'm going to leave here today and I'm going to start using some of the MyPlate principles. All right? Then you went, where do I start? You could pick any one of these tips. Avoid oversized portions. Make half your plate fruits and veggies. Switch to low fat. Any of these are great ones to start. Great goal setting within these tips. And we have them for all of these different concepts. Now, one thing the 2010 guidelines really reinforced was our need as a society to reduce our sodium intake, right? Somebody finally came out and said 51% of Americans need to be eating 1,500 milligrams of sodium a day or less. Wow. When the average American eats between 3,500 and 6,000 milligrams of sodium a day, depending on how much they eat out, this is nowhere reflected on here, right? Is it reflected anywhere on my pyramid? It's not on my pyramid either. This is a concept that no matter where you're working, no matter what it is you want to do for nutrition, no matter if you're working with individuals, helping them to set their own goals for better health through nutrition, this concept has got to be with every single lesson. Because even if you're eating, let's say you're going to add more vegetables to your day. If you do that, is there a chance that you're going to add more sodium to your day as well? Oh, absolutely. Imagine my surprise when I picked up frozen spinach with 400 milligrams of sodium in a half cup. I was flabbergasted. I thought, it just says spinach. Maybe it should say salted spinach. That would be easier to read, wouldn't it? What if you wanted to make half your grains whole? Could you see that coming with a lot of sodium? Yeah, if I got a whole wheat boxed pasta product that I'm going to have for supper tonight, but it's whole wheat, it's whole grain, but it comes with that flavor packet. Up goes my sodium, right? So keeping in mind that this is going to fall into almost every one of these if you're not careful. So this is one, the salt and sodium tip sheet, that you might want to spend a good bit of time on and help integrate that with everything else. So, if we just looked at the plate, just the plate, it would tell us to enjoy our food but eat less, right? This plate versus this plate. I can eat less if I go to a smaller plate, right? Easy, done. Avoid oversized portions. Well, if I divide my plate up, and I really do keep that protein in that little part of the plate, does that upset anybody? That little protein part? A lot of people get upset about that. I'm never going to have any more lean muscle. How am I going to build muscle if I don't have more protein? It's a very hard concept to help people understand. A balanced diet and activity builds muscle. You can eat all the protein in the world, and if you're sitting on the sofa, you won't be any leaner for it. It's a two-pronged process there. Okay, make half your plate. That we just said that's good. What about switch to fat-free or low-fat milk? What do you think that is with the icon? You know, blue. When you think about blue and milk, what kind of milk do you think about? 2%. What color do you think of with skim? Pink. Sometimes it's purple. Sometimes it's pink. The skim milk people did not get their act together. So we don't have a good color for skim milk. So they just chose the blue. But when you're looking at this, and you look down here, this one has yellow. Has anybody seen the yellow cap for skim milk? Yeah, some folks have seen a yellow cap for skim milk. So switch to fat-free or low-fat skim milk. It shows us the dairy up there, but we were kind of lost as to what color to put there, huh? But universally, blue pretty much means 2%, which is not low-fat. It's reduced fat. Make at least half your grains whole grains. Does the icon do that for us just by looking at it? Nope. So you have to drive that one home. Compare sodium in foods like soup and bread. Nope, we just talked about that. You're going to have to read the label. And noticing, label standards have not changed, right? This percentage of daily value of sodium is not based on 1,500 milligrams a day. It's based on usually 2,300 or 2,400 milligrams a day. So if you're somebody that only gets to have 1,500 milligrams a day like me, because I hit that 50 marker, it's a lot more. This label says 33%. Guess what? It's a lot more than 33% of me. Isn't that something? So wow, that ends up being a big chunk of my sodium. Choose food with lower numbers, which means you got to sort of look to read sodium. Drink water instead of sugary drinks. You know, I kind of wish with the MyPlate icon they had put another glass up there for water. Having water at meals can be a wonderful way to reduce your intake of food, a wonderful way to make sure you're getting adequate water during the days if you always have a glass of water with your meals. That's not up there. It wasn't on my pyramid either. So this one is one that you have to reinforce with no icon. So, if you're going to want to use MyPlate, and you don't want to abandon my pyramid because it's still really, really helpful, and you want to support the 2010 Dietary Guidelines for Americans, you're going to have to learn it. Neither the pyramid nor the plate is going to cue you to every one of those guidelines for Americans, especially the sodium. The tip sheets are really valuable. They're worth printing and they're worth using. If you just put this little guy over here on the table and you start talking to yourself, talking to your family, talking to your participants about MyPlate, it can still be overwhelming for someone to begin. I think having doable goals that are written in simple language, eat less sugar. Really easy is a place to start. And you have to understand the pyramid to use MyPlate well. You have to understand the concept of whole foods, processed foods, and modified whole foods. You have to understand how foods go from the bottom of the pyramid to the top. If you don't understand that and can't teach that to your participants, you're going to do them a disservice. But if you know that, you can very easily say, tell me a whole food vegetable. Tell me a whole food vegetable. Carrots, broccoli. Tell me a modified whole food vegetable. Broccoli with cheese sauce. Now tell me a top of the pyramid, a processed. Carrot cake. Yeah, that's a way of a stretch. Or what about those appetizers like you get at restaurant? Fried broccoli, stuffed with cheese. Spinach dip. Right. So if you can help your client visualize this plate, or you can visualize this plate for yourself in a way that says, I can see this as the plate, the whole food plate, the modified whole food, or the processed food plate, that's going to tell you just how healthy your plate is. And using the correct size plate. Sometimes when I'm working with folks, I ask them either, next time we come together, I want you to bring me your plate. Bring the plate that you eat on at home, assuming they eat on a plate, because a lot of people don't eat on plates. I had one person bring in the little plastic container from a frozen dinner. I was like, good portion control. You could hack that up like this, right? I could take a white marker and draw that out. That'll work. But if you have people bring in their plates, or you actually look at the plate with them, and you take a ruler and you measure it, and you draw inside that plate, this is about how far the food should touch. It becomes very eye-opening. Very eye-opening. So using the correct size plate will go a long way. You know what? The best way to take care of our health, the best way to avoid being overweight, is to start out that way from childhood. Helping children not overeat by simply using a smaller plate is a gentle way to guide individuals toward good nutrition. A teenager who's still hungry and is appropriate body weight can have a second plate, right? But that 5-year-old that already ate the 9-inch plate full of food and 20 minutes later goes, oh, I need a nap. It's done, right? Reinforcing the concept that a snack is part of a healthy diet while your treat is discretionary calories, it's pretty important. Using your snack plate is a great way to make sure you get everything you need in, but you're going to have to talk about discretionary calories, because inevitably you're going to say, somebody's going to say to you, when am I ever going to get to eat cake again? But I like pop. You know, I want a beer. Where does it fit? It can fit. And addressing the sodium intake. Really important, no matter what the primary goal. So, choose MyPlate by all means. It's a wonderful icon. It sends many good messages. It makes a lot of things clear. But I think to take us where we need to go as a society and in community, to reduce our sodium content, to eat low-fat dairy, to eat whole grains, to eat low protein, you're going to have to integrate the plate with the guidelines with My Pyramid. I don't anticipate that My Pyramid will be coming off of the USDA's website anytime soon. So right now, my recommendation would be to use them together. Depending on who you are and who your client is, you might want to start with this and go to that, or start with this and go to that. It depends on what works best. But one without the other does not accomplish what they can accomplish together. They really are better together than they are alone. Is there any question that I can answer for you about MyPlate? Yes, ma'am.
Why aren't the food labels aligned with MyPyramid and MyPlate and the new kind of sodium restrictions? Are they working on that?
My guess is it's going to take them a while. They're actually working on a whole new nutrient label, a whole new label that's going to be used, period. And my guess is it's going to cover in that, and they're not revamping the new or the current nutrition data label. They're going to do it all at one time, which is going to be down the road a bit. Also, to turn industry standard around, oh my, it takes a long time. You cannot believe there's 300 trillion billion labels out there printed for every product in advance. So that's my guess. And hopefully, before the next dietary guidelines are due in 5 years, we'll have a label that more closely. That's very confusing to deal with clients, isn't it?
It is, especially when it comes to things like fat, because especially with trans fat and things like that, because they can legally say it's 0 if it has, I think, less than half a gram.
Right.
So if someone eats like 3 servings of something that has no trans fat, they can get like 1 or 2 grams.
Yeah, the whole trans fat thing with, it says 0, but it's really got 0.5 in it, but they don't have to state at 0.5. And I bought this box with 20 servings in it, and I ate the whole 20 servings over the course of a week. Wow. I just got 10 grams of trans fat. Wonder why my cholesterol doesn't look so good at the doctor. And it's a product I buy all the time, because guess what it says on the front of it? No trans fat, right? You're right, very hard to work with people to actually turn it over and look at the ingredient list and say, does it say hydrogenated? If it does, it's in there. But one more thing a person's got to do, right? What do you think about using a smaller plate with children? Do you think that that's a hard concept for parents to use? A lot of parents realize that their children need to eat less, and sometimes it's just the habit of grabbing the stack of plates and making everybody look the same. But it's a really important concept. What about, do you think, the concept about cutting down the protein to where it only fills that much? Do you think that that's a harder concept? Yeah, I do too. What do you think about using this at breakfast? Do you think that would be hard? Yeah. We sort of need a breakfast plate, don't we? But breakfast is so variable by culture and by area of the country, that might be a little bit harder to do. I thank you for your time. I hope you go forth and use MyPlate. These will be posted on the eatwellwestmi.org website within the next few days. Thanks a lot.